In this video, we're going to dive into what's going on in the world of NFTs and crypto. So buckle your seatbelts and let's dive right in. So for the most part, when we're looking at what's going on from a macro perspective, over the last 7 days, a lot of the coins have been pumping, especially Solana. So it seems like there's this whole layer 1 narrative going on with Solana and Avalanche as well. So these have definitely been pumping. A lot of people are expecting the layer 2s to pump after ETH pumps, hopefully, right, in 2024. So those are going to be coins like Polygon and IMX during a bull run. And I would say we're in the beginning stages of a bull run because literally everything's going up. Gaming tokens are going up. People are launching tokens. So now is the time to go for it, right? Really think about what you want to invest in, think about what you want to buy and when you want to sell, because now is the time, especially because we are early. Now diving into the hot stories for the day, Artifact recently made some big announcements when it comes to their project Animus. If you didn't know, everyone who had a Clone X, right, from Artifact was airdropped an egg and nobody really knew what that egg was going to be. A year later, we're going to get an update where they are going to be releasing this in Q1 2024. I didn't think this was the best way to make that announcement. I feel like they could have done more when it comes to teasers and getting people excited, but this is pretty much what it is. Now the question I have is, the art styles for all of these look very random. These are 3D, these are 2D. According to them, all Project Animus eggs review 2D and 3D versions of the same enemy character. So you probably have a 3D version of this as well, and you could probably turn it 2D. So most likely they're going to be entering the world of gaming, and most NFT projects are kind of forced to get into gaming because that is where the money is. That's where the most volume is, especially for an IP. And so we're going to see more and more projects in general go into gaming. And you can see because of this news, the floor did go up just a little bit, nothing too crazy, basically up about 0.1. So it's not super bullish. And also I believe they plan to sell more eggs as well, possibly. So let's see what happens in the future. Now, speaking of gaming, there's a project that I recently came across called Farcana. So this is going to be a third-person mobile shooter where it's kind of similar to Valorant, if you ever played that game. But of course, Valorant is going to be a first-person shooter. This one's going to be third-person. And to give you the scoop on what's going on here, they recently did a free airdrop for Mocaverse holders. They had 25 whitelist spots for them, and then also grinders, essentially. And then everything else was public, first come, first serve. So it was free mint. Now it's 1.77, which is pretty good for free mint. Of course, the supply is going to be low. And the main thing they are advertising is going to be their token, right? So on their OpenSea page, basically the first thing is FAR token airdrop. Everything else is in-game credits. Skins, if they will be available, hard to say. When will the game come out? Nobody really knows. So it's really all for the token, right? It looks like an interesting game. It's basically Valorant, third-person shooter for Web3, and that's essentially the narrative that will get everyone to buy, backed by Animoca brands. Now, a lot of people will say like, oh, just because it's Animoca, it's going to go to the moon. That's not necessarily the case. Not every project backed by Animoca is going to be successful when it comes to a token launch. But obviously, if you got a free mint, you're already up a lot. But I would always be careful of, projects that really emphasize the token, and that's like everything. It's pretty clear that their token airdrop is like the big marketing push for what they're doing. So you always want to be mindful of that. The reason is because if you look at Grapecoin, right, obviously after launch, if you got in the pre-sale, yeah, you're up, but then it's just downhill from here. And it's gonna be hard to say, for Grapecoin, for example, which was a hot token drop, how can it go up from here, right? Because it's gonna be a while before people actually use the games that they try to make. But actually for Grape, they actually already have games. That's the interesting part, right? They have games in the App Store, but in reality, people don't actually care about the game in the App Store. I don't think any of the Web3 people play these games on the App Store. It's more about the narrative. If you're getting into these projects, yeah, it might look cool and everything, but understand there's a whole finance game of VCs that you're playing against in order to see who makes the most money, right? So just be mindful. Even if the game looks good, you got to understand the back end of how everything works. Speaking of tokens, the next thing I want to put on your radar is going to be Frame. So Frame is essentially going to be a layer 2 token that is supposed to be specifically geared towards creators and collectors, right? A lot of the NFT founders and people who are prominent in the space, like Luca Nets, CEO, Dingaling, Loopify, they're all kind of involved in this. So obviously it's going to get a lot of influencer push. What exactly are they going to do different from any other layer 1? Well, according to their website, enforce royalties, which actually is already available with ERC 721C, which is a standard that the Digi Daigaku team actually created. Asset security. So I'm not really sure because every asset is kind of secure on a chain, right? So I'm not sure what would be different. Frame creator funds. But then you could also argue that every layer 2 and every layer 1 has a grant that funds creators as well, right? In my opinion, it's kind of like Polygon and Mutable X competitor, but the narrative is geared towards creators. And of course, you know, whether or not it works, whether if it's just a copy or whatever the case is, if they launch your token, they're going to make money, right? So that's essentially how the game goes in crypto. So the value proposition is layer 2 for creators and collectors, right? So yeah, that's something I want to put on your radar in case you're interested in these kind of token plays. And now the last story of the day is going to be Moonbirds. So this is really interesting because Moonbirds was one of the hottest projects in the game like a year ago, or when they came out, with the floor price being like crazy. And now Kevin Rose has made some questionable tweets where he's like, New Year's resolution, starting January 1st, I'm taking a hiatus from X to jump into decentralized social media. This is just for me, nothing changes for proof. It's kind of ridiculous, to be honest, because if you're the founder or co-founder and CEO of a company and you choose not to communicate into the Web3 audience for whatever reason, whether it's mental health or whatever the case is, you know, if you take the money, you have the responsibility to do something, right? Not a good look for Moonbirds, but possibly if, you know, a lot of people are unhappy with the leadership at Moonbirds, maybe it's for the better. Maybe they will switch leadership and that will help the Moonbirds community more, right? It's hard to say, but I think this is really not the best move to just kind of walk away like that, because you got into the arena, so you got to play the game, and that's just how it goes. Real quick, I did want to talk about probably what are going to be the hottest token drops for Q1 for gaming. First one's gonna be Mocaverse, which is Animoca's PFP project, right? You know, the main value here is that because so many projects, especially gaming projects, are funded by Animoca partly, right? There's whitelist allocation for those people, and you know, that creates a narrative and value for Mocaverse, and they're dropping a token as well, which they're gonna do something like, hey, if you have tokens, maybe you can buy allocation, maybe you can buy whitelist, right? Those are some of the perks possibly, and that's the narrative that's driving the price of this thing up. The next one's gonna be Pixelmon. Pixelmon, obviously I've done an interview on the Parallax with Julio, the CEO. It's gonna be one of those games where they have top-notch developers. They're doing their tokenomics really well. They're really trying to integrate these NFTs into the game, right? If the game is successful, then NFT holders will benefit somehow. So this is one project that I'm definitely looking out for 2024. And the last one's gonna be Overworld. Overworld's kind of an interesting case because there's literally no gameplay of what this game is or what it's supposed to be, but there's a lot of hype and people believe that the token's gonna be fire. That's just the narrative, right? A lot of people just understand this. A lot of people will trade these NFTs and tokens and things like that just based on the narrative, and they don't care what the game looks like. So you have to understand that, hey, maybe the game doesn't even exist, possibly, right? Who knows? They never showed anything. So always keep that in mind. This is crypto. This is how it works. That's everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like and subscribe. And if you want to be up to date with everything that's going on in the NFT space, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Patrick Dang. And if you want to check out what's going on in our alpha groups, especially when it comes to our private community on Discord, where we're talking about all types of different coins and everything like that, make sure to check out the Parallax Genesis, our NFT project. Link is in the description for you to learn more. With that said, I'll see you in the next one.